Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Josh Thomas here from the BitBlock, and today I'm going to be answering your questions about Rhythm Heaven for the Nintendo 3DS. A couple days ago, I asked for you guys to send any questions you might have about this game on Twitter and Facebook, and many of you did, so I'm going to do my best to answer as many as possible. If your question does not get answered, I am super sorry. Please don't take it personally. I can only answer so many. So yeah, I'm going to answer over 20 questions here, so hopefully that will give you guys a better understanding of what Rhythm Heaven on the Nintendo 3DS has to offer. And by the way, I know that's not the real name. The Japanese name is like Rhythm Tengoku the Best Plus, something like that. It doesn't really make much sense in English, so we're just going to call it Rhythm Heaven 3DS. So here we go. First up, we're going to start answering some of the questions from Facebook. So Lewis asks, are all the games stylus controlled, or can you use buttons too? You can use whichever one you like. The game actually defaults to giving you button controls. This is a very simple game to control. I mean, it really is just a matter of pressing the A button most of the time. Some of the games do use the B button as well, so it's like A or B. That's really all you need to know for the most part. The menus are navigated with the plus control, the D-pad. So yeah, it's just A button. You can just use that. Or if you want to, you can go into the settings and change it to be stylus controls. So whichever you prefer. Next up, Dennis says, do you think it will be localized? Yeah, I really hope it is. They localized Rhythm Heaven on the Nintendo DS, and they localized Rhythm Heaven Fever on the Wii. So, I mean, the track record is that they might localize this one for sure, but who can be sure? I mean, it's Nintendo, so you really can't predict them. I just have a feeling it will be localized. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about it at E3. So, yeah, here's hoping. I mean, it would be great, and I don't think this game is really a big budget game that they can't take a risk on. So, yeah, I don't know how the sales usually do outside of Japan, but yeah, hopefully it will be. I think it will be eventually. Ben says, are there any songs in the game or just instrumental tracks? So I think what Ben is asking is like, is there any music with lyrics and actual singing in it? And yes, Ben, there are. There's not a ton of it, but I'd say maybe at least 10 songs that I've experienced so far actually did have singing in them, lyrics. One of them was actually already in English, oddly enough. And it was even sung by like an English musician, like an English singer. It wasn't like a Japanese person trying to sing English. So yeah, it's cool. I mean, a lot of the remixes generally have lyrics in them, but yeah, there is some singing in this game, but just not as much as like instrumental. Robin says, does the game still use the book format from the Nintendo DS, or did they change it to be played straight with the screens up and down instead of left and right? Yeah, they did change that. So on the Nintendo DS, obviously you would hold the system sideways, and then you'd kind of use the touchscreen vertically instead of horizontally. Here, you don't do that. Here, it's just, mainly probably because it's in 3D, but it's just playing it like you would play a normal 3DS game, but it still works. I think that maybe works a little bit better. It's kind of more comfortable to hold that way. Xavier asks, multiplayer support? Yes, Xavier, there is multiplayer support for 2 to 4 people. So yeah, there is a mode where essentially you all get on a little toy train and you play the games together. I have not been able to experience it myself just yet. We will probably be doing episodes of The Fold with this in the future, so I will talk a little bit more about multiplayer then. But for now, yes, there is multiplayer support for up to 4 people, which is really cool. Tori wants to know, are the songs from the older ones, the GBA and DS games, copy-pasted into here, or are they remastered with better sound quality? They have better sound quality. I don't know if remastered is necessarily the right word to use because they do sound like they are the identical songs from the DS game, but obviously because they're coming from the Nintendo 3DS speakers, they're just naturally going to be a better quality. The Nintendo DS had horrible speaker quality, so it's really nice to hear them on the 3DS where they sound better. So I don't think they really changed anything from returning songs, but they do sound better just because they're on a system that has better audio capabilities. Cristobal? I'm sorry, I'm probably mispronouncing your name. Cristobal wants to know, is there any Glee guys? I'm pretty sure he's referring to the chorus kids, where they would go, That's the worst impression ever. But yeah, the chorus kids are in this game. That little Glee song minigame is here. It's really cute, just as cute as ever. And yeah, I mean, they're in here, so there you go. Last one from Facebook. Bryson says, is this just a collection of the past games added with new content, Also, would you recommend it to newcomers to the series, assuming it comes to other regions? So, what was the first question here? Is this just a collection of past games added with some new content? Yeah, I mean, that pretty much is the point of this game. I don't know if I would look at that as being a negative thing, though. I mean, it's sort of a celebration of the series where you get new games and you get to play the old games. So, yeah, that's pretty much a good way of summing it up, but I don't personally feel that that's necessarily a negative thing. Also, would you recommend it to newcomers to the series, assuming it comes to other regions? Yeah, I mean, if you've never played Rhythm Heaven before and you want to get into it, you want to try it, this is the version to get, obviously, because you get a new game, you get new stuff, but you also get all the returning games as well. And by all of them, I don't mean they literally took every game from the past games, but they took samples from the past games and brought them in. So, yeah, this is like the perfect one to start with, because you get a taste of what the series was in the past, and you get a taste of what the series is now. So, perfect one to jump into. I would highly recommend people who have never played Rhythm Heaven before to check this game out. We're going to move on to some Twitter questions. I am going to probably do a horrible job pronouncing a lot of your names on Twitter, but I'll do my best. Starting it off with @DiscoCrows. I'm not familiar with the series. Could you give me and anyone else questioning it a quick rundown of how it works? So, yeah, I think this is a pretty good one to start with when it comes to Twitter, because maybe there are a lot of people out there who don't know what this game even is. It's sort of hard to explain, but it's a very simple game. So let me set up a scenario. You have this little artwork of a chameleon, a lizard on somebody's hand, and there are little bugs flying by on the screen. And you have to press the A button to eat the bugs with the lizard's tongue in rhythm with the music. So you'll see the little fireflies will fly onto the screen and they'll get into a formation of like a line, and that's when you want to press the A button to eat the whole line of bugs. And you'll know to do that not just from a visual cue, but also a music cue. You'll just know from the music that it's coming up and boom, you eat the bugs, or like lick, lick, lick. It's hard for me to explain this game, but I think the game itself does a really good job of explaining it to you. It really introduces its concepts before playing the game. You can go through a little tutorial, and the tutorials are even kind of fun to play because they are you playing the game. So yeah, it teaches itself pretty well to new players. Another example, for example, that's a really well way of putting it. You have an onion on screen. There's an onion with a weird man's face on it, and the onion grows hairs on its chin, and there's a little pair of clippers that scrolls across the base of the onion, and when it gets to the hairs, you have to press the A button to clip them, to pluck them off. And of course, you're doing that in rhythm to the music. It is a very weird game, but weird in fantastic ways, trust me. So hopefully that explained it a little bit to you. I don't know if I did a good job explaining it, but don't think this is a complicated game by any means. It's just so weird, it's a bit difficult to explain, but maybe that explains it to you. And there are hundreds of games like that. Weird onion creatures that need their facial hair plucked is just one of like 100 examples of the craziness in this game as far as the songs go. So moving on, @Vorbird wants to know, is 3D in use in this game, or is the 3D off? Yeah, this game is 3D. It does have some 3D effect. It's not the greatest 3D, because Rhythm Heaven, for the most part, although there are some mini-games that are like 3D models, it's all 2D hand-drawn characters and animations. So it's a little bit difficult to make 2D things like this look 3D, because it's a very simple game as far as the art style goes, but I think it's very beautiful and fun to look at, but you generally don't have a lot of detail in the artwork of these games. So it tends to look a bit flat, is what I'm trying to say. I do wish the 3D effect was a little bit better. I do play this game in 3D, I should point that out, even though it is kind of a flat 3D. But it does have 3D. It's just not the best, but it's still kind of cool to have it there. Some of the menus look really cool in 3D because they designed them to where you'd be going into the foreground and jumping into the background to select things. Like kind of scrolls forward and backwards to go through the songs in the selection. So that's kind of neat. But it's 3D. Yeah, but just not the best. @HublaShuga, which is one of the best Twitter handles ever, wants to know, do the returning DS games use touch controls, or have they been remapped to button inputs? You can use either or. Like I said, this game offers support for touch and for buttons. I don't know which way I personally prefer to play the game. I think it works good either way. I think rhythm inherently relates to movement. So when you're playing this game, you're going to be tapping your foot or bobbing your head. I think it's impossible to not get into it from like a physical standpoint. So I think one of the reasons that touch controls work so well is it really lets you kind of move with the game in a way. Whereas buttons, I guess, work a little bit more reliably for some people. So it really is just a matter of opinion. I like using both. I kind of go back and forth. Touch controls are good if you want to really get into it and you want to feel like you're really moving with the music. And button controls are good if you're really not finding the touch controls as reliable for your hands and movement. So yeah, the returning DS games do use touch controls, but you can also use them with the button controls. So it's kind of nice. Good for people who want the variety. They want the options. At Tottenham Gamer, which is a really confusing Twitter tag, do you still need to wait until the game tells you to get a perfect, or can you get it whenever you want now? So in case you don't know, there's a point in this game as you progress where the game will challenge you to play one of the songs you've already played without making any mistakes. So you have to really be on rhythm. And if you do that, you're rewarded with a little something something. So once again, just like in the past games, Rhythm Heaven on the 3DS does actually challenge you to get a perfect. You do have to wait until they challenge you. You can't just get a perfect at any time, because I'm sure there will be many times you'll play through these games and you actually won't make a mistake, so you would just get a perfect, and it would probably be too easy to do that. I find that when the game challenges me to get a perfect, it makes it more nerve-wracking for me. So it's like my chances of messing up are a little bit higher because I know, like, okay, I can't mess up. I gotta do good. And that's usually when I mess up. I cave under pressure. So yeah, to answer your question, you do have to wait until the game challenges you to get a perfect. I do believe they choose the game at random. Right now, the perfect that the game is challenging me to get is with the Nintendo DS song that is like ping pong. You're playing ping pong back and forth. Table tennis, if you will. And that's the one song in this whole game so far that I've been sort of bad at. I can't get into the rhythm with that one. It's really tricky. So, it's a little unfortunate because I'm having a difficult time figuring that one out. But yeah. Pip Lup Goku says, is the Tap Troop minigame from Rhythm Heaven Fever one of the returning minigames? It is, from what I've seen so far, it is not. I haven't seen it yet, but I have not beaten the whole game. That is a great one, though, from Rhythm Heaven Fever. Hats off to you for suggesting that one. It's basically a bunch of long legs that are tap dancing, and as the song progresses, you see that the legs are actually really long, and these people are like 10 to 20 feet tall. It's pretty adorable. But no, I haven't seen that one yet, so maybe it'll pop up. I haven't even seen it in commercials, though, like Japanese commercials or trailers. That one might not have made the cut. Don't quote me on that. I just haven't seen it. At Nintendo Freak, do you think this is leading up to a Rhythm Heaven character in Smash? I don't think this is suggesting that there will be a Rhythm Heaven character in Smash, but I would like to see that happen. I mean, Rhythm Heaven is one of Nintendo's most underappreciated series, I think, so seeing it in Smash Brothers would definitely help the series out, and these are really wacky characters, so seeing somebody from Rhythm Heaven would be great. They would fit Smash Brothers so well. But to answer your question, no, I don't think the release of a new Rhythm Heaven game is suggesting that we'll see a character in Smash Brothers, but it's possible. Who knows? E3 is like days away. Maybe we'll see a Rhythm Heaven character announced, but I don't think this is suggesting it. Night's Owl, how many games are new versus how many are from past Rhythm Heaven games? So there are 30 brand new games, and there are 70 games, songs returning from past versions of the series. So that would include the Game Boy Advance, the Nintendo DS, and the Wii. So that's 3 games. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot returning, but the good news is if you've never played those games, it's almost like this whole entire game is brand new to you. So that's kind of cool. Next up, Dipper Games says, do the 3DS buttons work well for the Wii rhythm games? Do rhythm games from all previous installations return? So yeah, I actually kind of answered the latter half of that question just now. Yeah, I mean, the 3DS buttons work perfectly fine for the Wii rhythm games. I think, yeah, it's different than holding a Wii remote, but it still works fine. I don't really notice anything that's, like, different necessarily. The buttons work just as good as the buttons on the Wii remote. So yeah. And then, do the rhythm games from all previous versions return? Yep, you get them from all of them. Just want to make sure I did not pass up any questions here. How many? Yep, okay, we're going to move on here to Dan Doodling. What is your favorite minigame so far? Dan Doodling, that's such a hard question to answer because I have a new favorite every game that I play. Like, every one is my new favorite. But I think the one that stands out the most for me is, I don't know the name of it because it's in Japanese. Essentially, the premise is you are a cute little white rabbit who is hopping along on turtle shells and whales over an ocean, and you're hopping to the beat, you know, so it's a hop, 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 and eventually you get to the point where a whale's tail will fling you into the air, and then you land and you start again, and it's just, there's just such a great little cute beat to it, and it's adorable looking. It's a rabbit hopping on top of turtles and whales over the ocean. How can you not love that? It's brilliant. But like I said, it's hard for me to pick a favorite, but that is one that stands out, and I really like that one. But my gosh, all the games are really, really cute and really random and silly, and this whole game just has such a great personality, and it's actually one of the few video games that's genuinely funny and surprising, so yeah, I like it. But that's probably my favorite minigame so far, if I had to pick. Burmy Graphics, at Burmy Graphics, at Burmy Graphics. How difficult compared to the other games? The difficulty is about on par with all the other Rhythm Heaven games. I don't think that it's necessarily easier or more difficult. It's interesting, the game does start off pretty easy. They give you like smaller versions of the songs, and at first I was like, wow, it seems like the music is like maybe 30 seconds shorter than past versions in the game. But as you progress, you play games that are longer and have maybe one or two new little rhythm sections added to them. So it starts off easy, and it eventually ramps up to being more difficult. So maybe in a way, I think that the difficulty is planned out better for the 3DS version of Rhythm Heaven than any of the others, because it does kind of ramp you up and eventually you get into the more difficult stuff. But on par, you know, as when this game is at its most difficult, it's pretty much the same as, you know, the difficulty in the other games. So yeah, I think they did a good job with the difficulty. Next up, Egg Prawn says, serious question, Rubba Dubba Dubba, is that true? Yes. Yes, Egg Prawn, that is true. It's very true. It's still true to this day. And then Codename Mongo says, how many remixes are there? Do the new games live up to the old ones? Are there remixes with lyrics? Endless games / rhythm toys? Okay, so this is a lot of questions in one, so let's take it step by step here. How many remixes are there? I have not completed the whole game, so it's really difficult for me to answer that, but I will say I've seen 6 remixes so far. And again, there could be more, it's very likely there are more, but I've seen 6 of them, and the remixes are better than ever. They're so great. Just in case you don't know, remixes are, they take the songs that you've learned, so you'll play like 4 songs in a chapter, and they'll take those 4 songs that you learned, and they'll remix, they'll take them all together, and they'll sort of customize the visual style. So one of the remixes, for example, is themed around bees and honeycomb, oddly enough. So it takes all 4 of the songs you just played and puts like bee-related visual styles to everything. So you'll see the characters now dressed up as bees, there will be honey and flowers and stuff like that, and it's totally new music, and it usually has lyrics. It's a remix of everything you learned, and it's so cool. So far, I've seen 6 of them. There might be more. Do they live up to the old ones? Yeah, like I said, they're better than the old ones in my opinion. Are there any remixes with lyrics? I accidentally answered that as well. Yes, there are. Are there endless games / rhythm toys? Yeah, there are rhythm toys. I have not seen an endless game just yet, but I have seen some rhythm toys. One of them was I was boxing against opponents, and it was like a little toy boxing thing where I had to keep tapping the A button to the beat, and I had to try and inflate my opponent's balloon to get it to blow up before he inflated mine. That's how you would win. Another rhythm toy is there's like a pachinko machine where you're throwing like onions or radishes, and you want them to land at a little goat in the bottom so he can eat them for points. It's a very weird one, but yeah, there are rhythm toys in this game. So, and you know, just like before, they're crazy. Poison Mushroom on Twitter wants to know, for when the game uses multiplayer, does it have download play? It does have download play. I have not tried it myself. Like I said, I haven't gotten a chance to play the multiplayer. You can play it where, you know, download plays, of course, you have the game, but your friends don't, and they can download a sort of demo from you. I do not know if they will be able to play a whole lot of games through download play. I doubt that you would get the full library that you would get if you were playing with people who also have the game, but it is there. And then finally, the last question here is from pjacob35. Does it bring any new ideas? Also, do you think Rhythm Heaven needs new ideas, or is the regular beat-based formula still fun? So in a way, this game really doesn't have a lot of big new ideas. Rhythm Heaven for the 3DS is really meant to be a collection. It's meant to be a celebration of the series, and that's kind of its gimmick. So it doesn't necessarily focus on, here's the new big crazy thing we're doing with Rhythm Heaven. And I don't know that the series really needs something drastically new at this point. I think it's still trying to find its audience. It's still trying to become really popular. So there's a lot of people out there that have not had a chance to experience Rhythm Heaven for what it is. So I really don't think it's time to drastically change anything. I think a lot of Nintendo series do need some really crazy ideas. Mario, for example. Mario is really starting to get stale for me. I love him, but they gotta do something crazy with that next. But Rhythm Heaven, I don't really think so. And there is some new ideas. For example, you can play 4 people together, and that's something that we've never seen in the series before, so I think that's very cool. Or is the regular... So yeah, I think I answered all those questions. It doesn't necessarily bring big new ideas, but naturally there are new ideas here, and the 4-player support is really cool and welcome. And like I said, Rhythm Heaven is still new in a way, doesn't really have a huge audience outside of Japan, so I think it's probably a better idea to build that audience and then introduce some drastically new things. So guys, it has been about 20 minutes of me rambling on, answering your questions. I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question. I wanted to try and keep this as concise as possible, but if enough of you have questions in the comments below here on YouTube, maybe I'll do a part 2 to this. As I keep playing the game, I'm sure I will learn even more about it. There will be a video review for the Japanese version of Rhythm Heaven on the 3DS coming up very soon, just shortly after E3, because I'm going to be going to E3 in a couple days, well, a few days, and I'm so excited about that! So yeah, I'm going to keep playing some Rhythm Heaven 3DS. Keep it locked right here to the BitBlock for a lot more coverage on the game. Going to be doing a video journal very soon as well, so that'll be fun. Alright, thanks for watching, guys! Hey, thanks for watching this video from the BitBlock. If you want to stay up to date with some of the most original, crazy Nintendo coverage on the internet, be sure to click right here to subscribe.